Welcome back everyone, it's Charlie. This is going to be my brand new Spider-Man movie video. Sony and Marvel just announced a couple new Spider-Man spin-off movies, so we'll break it down and how it all ties together with Venom and Tom Holland's Spider-Man in the MCU. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. We're doing an Amazon giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave all your predictions for other Spider-Man spin-off movies on the video. We are slowly going full live-action Spider-Verse with all the stuff that they have planned. So just going down the list, starting with number 5, Sony and Marvel announced that they're working to expand the Spider-Verse of Marvel's Spider-Man movies beyond Venom, Morbius, and the other Sinister Six character solo movies that Sony has planned right now. All these are loosely tied together with Tom Hardy's Venom, because Venom is sort of the first big Spider-Verse movie that Sony did, and because of what they've done recently in the last year with the new sharing deal, also connected to Tom Holland's MCU Spider-Man. They announced a whole bunch of spin-off movies last year. There was even a mystery Spider-Man movie that was coming out next year till the virus hit and they delayed it. But now we have confirmation on what 2 of those big movies are going to be. One of them is way bigger than the other though. So the smaller one this morning that they just confirmed was a Jackpot solo movie. I know a lot of you who may not have read every single Spider-Man comic book are like, who the hell is Jackpot? So 4, Jackpot is a female Spider-Man comic book character who showed up as a gene therapist doing research. She's exposed, this will sound familiar, to something called Lot 777, a virus that rewrites her DNA in her cells. So it's a little bit like Spider-Man comic book origins, bitten by a radioactive spider, changes his DNA. The original Jackpot was named Sarah Arrett, but then there was a second one that took the mantle for a little while, and then the original one came back. I'm assuming that the movie is going to be based on the original version of Jackpot. She winds up getting super strength, she starts wearing a comic book suit like this, fighting crime. They didn't say exactly what kind of movie it's going to be, but it feels like a little bit smaller than what you would expect from, say, like a big Venom or a traditional MCU Spider-Man film. It's being written by Mark Guggenheim. That was also part of the announcement this morning. He's working on a bunch of movies for Sony. He's even working on a live-action Gantz movie that Sony is trying to do based on the anime and the manga. Moving on to the next big Spider-Man spin-off movie they announced, 3. The other one is much bigger in my opinion. Earlier this week, you probably saw the news. They announced the Spider-Man Madam Web movie officially. We knew that they were planning on doing Madam Web at some point. They announced it a couple years ago. We just didn't know when it was actually going to happen.
Across other dimensions, dimensions that are strange reflections of our own. A past unlike ours, a present day out of sync, and a distant future.
And here's why I think this one is going to be a much bigger movie than the other Sony spin-off movies. Because she is an important character in the Spider-Verse, she has crazy powers. Most of you remember her from the 1990s Spider-Man animated series or from the Spider-Verse comics. She's able to travel the web of life and destiny at will, time, space, the multiverse. But they're saying that the movie is being made for Charlize Theron. She would be the Madam Web, Furiosa Madam Web. As cool as that is to hear Charlize Theron might be playing a version of Madam Web, a lot of you are scratching your heads going, wait a minute, doesn't Madam Web look more like Aunt May? Isn't she supposed to be an old lady? Within that announcement, the people behind the project acknowledged that because they're planning for Charlize Theron, it would obviously be a very different version of Madam Web from the comics. So they did say that it might wind up being a more straight-up Spider-Woman type of movie, even though she wouldn't be playing Jessica Drew Spider-Woman, or even Spider-Gwen for that matter. Although Charlize Theron would kill as an older version of Spider-Gwen, but you have to imagine that once they do eventually get to live-action Spider-Gwen, she'll probably be a teenager just like Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
Hey guys, I'm from another dimension. I mean, another dimension. Okay, then, I'll see you around.
So right now it's still a little unclear as to how much they're going to change live-action Madam Web, but it will be obviously a very different take than the classic version of the character. If they can lock her down, Charlize Theron would be a huge get for the Spider-Verse of movies. She's legit, and she has good on-screen chemistry with Tom Hardy, their Venom. Everybody remembers them from Mad Max Fury Road. So number 2, in terms of Tom Holland's Spider-Man and the MCU connections, back when we found out about Marvel and Sony's plans for crossing over MCU Spider-Man with the Venom movies and then the separate Sinister Six movie plans with Sony, the first big thing people assumed when Kevin Feige said the words Spider-Man and Multiverse in the same sentence was Madam Web using her powers to take Spider-Man from the MCU version of Earth to an alternate universe, potentially, where Tom Hardy's Venom character in all the Sony movies existed. And that would just be the easy solution for explaining how everything works, because Kevin Feige made it seem like he didn't really want Venom in the MCU, or all of Sony's other spin-off movies like Morbius.
Well, those movies will all take place in the world that we are now creating for Peter Parker, but it will still all be in the same world, and they will be connected to each other as well.
So there is a chance that Tom Holland as Spider-Man will pop up somewhere over there?
Chance.
There's always a chance.
There's always a chance. I think one of the things that Kevin has done with Marvel that's was so brilliant.
But back around D23, after they cleared up all their Spider-Man sharing business, Marvel and Sony released their official plan for how all these crossovers are going to work between the MCU characters. Any Spider-Man related movies that Sony does, including the Venom movies and any other Marvel movies it controls, are allowed to reference anything from the MCU Spider-Man's history in the MCU movies. That means stuff like Avengers Infinity War, The Snap, Avengers Endgame, The Blip, all the stuff they've done in the Spider-Man MCU movies with the Sinister Six characters, even the events of Captain America Civil War. But that's pretty much it. That's the limit. So when Tom Holland shows up with Venom on screen, they won't start talking about the events of the Black Panther movie or the events of Thor Ragnarok or Guardians of the Galaxy. Just Spider-Man related stuff and other Spider-Man comic book characters like Vulture, Mysterio. You get the idea. Probably Tom Holland's Spider-Man making a whole bunch more pop culture movie references when he's with Venom. You just have to picture this Infinity War scene when he's with Iron Man, but it's Tom Hardy's Venom standing here trying to follow him as he's making all these movie references. And on the other side of that, with the MCU Spider-Man movies, it's the same thing, with Tom Holland being able to reference anything that happens with the Venom movies when he's in those, or any of the Sinister Six movies. The Spider-Man 4 movie that we found out about a little while ago is a good example of that. I'd say Spider-Man 3, but I think Spider-Man 3 is going to be released before a lot of the huge Tom Holland, Tom Hardy, Venom crossover stuff happens, so a lot of that probably won't come up yet. But it's being released after Venom 2, so just wait to see what happens with that. Because we got all that Spider-Man stuff in the Morbius trailer, and there are obviously potential Spider-Man Easter eggs and scenes that they have for Venom 2, maybe just teasers for stuff that's coming down the road. But number one, WTF, right now the earliest I'm expecting to see legit Tom Holland Spider-Man cameo scenes are maybe small chance of a Venom 2 post-credit scene. There have been rumors for a long time about Sony trying to get him to cameo in that movie. Now that they've delayed the movie till next year, they have that much extra time to film cameo scenes with Tom Holland. But as for the other new Spider-Man spin-off movies like Madam Web and Jackpot, it's more likely you'd see Venom Easter eggs and some maybe small Spider-Man Easter eggs in the background. I'm not expecting a lot of Tom Holland actual cameo scenes and crossovers in those movies. The one real big exception to that would be the potential Sinister Six movie that they're building up to. But in terms of other big Spider-Man live-action Spider-Verse movies that they have planned right now, there's the Kraven the Hunter solo movie, a Silk solo movie, a Night Watch movie, and then obviously the Sinister Six team-up movie. So just don't expect Tom Holland to start cameoing in 10 different Sony movies all of a sudden. It's just going to be the biggest movies, because even having him show up in a Venom movie is supposed to be a really special, rare thing. But if Sony can actually pull off a real live-action Spider-Verse movie, real Spider-Verse, that's when you start to see all these characters that they're trying to do solo movies for crossing over. And obviously potential for Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man to come back and guest star. That's the real attraction of a live-action Spider-Verse movie, is to get Tobey and Andrew Garfield to come back. But everyone, let me know in the comments, if they're actually able to lock down Charlize Theron as Madam Web, do you want to see Tom Holland's Spider-Man cross over with her character at some point?
Hey. Yeah, you. I'm talking to you, you piece of shit. I'm gonna kick your ass.
Personally, just because they had so much chemistry in Mad Max Fury Road, I would be totally happy if they just did Venom Madam Web crossover. But if we get any other big news about Sony Spider-Man spin-off movies, of course I'll do videos about that. Now that things are slowly starting to return to normal through the second half of the year, we'll start to get more big news about the Marvel and the Spider-Man movies. So there's lots of good stuff coming up. Congratulations, Jimmy Peterson. You're the giveaway winner from my last big Marvel video. Please email me on the About page of my channel so I can get your contact details. Everyone click here for that crazy Justice League Snyder Cut announcement. Turns out it's real. And click here for my brand new Marvel Ghost Rider movie project breakdown. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe. I'll see you guys tonight.